Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. We're back into work on a common problem that occurs on Penn reels. This one is from a Penn 109. Now the Penn 109 is different from the Penn 9. The Penn 9 is more what you think of when you think of a 209 or a 309, in that it has a casting feature where when you go to cast, the free spool eliminates the handle from turning. Well, that's not the case on the Penn 109. This is a knuckle buster. When you're in cast mode, this will turn backwards. The problem we're having with this reel is it turns backwards in either regard. And we also have a problem here where one of the previous folks that took it apart kind of forgot to put the line guide back in, or maybe didn't know how to put the line guide back in, and wound up at my shop. So we're going to take you through how to fix that anti-reverse issue, and we're going to look at how to install the level line guide in this reel. So before I get started, I'd like to thank our first responders and essential personnel and all of the folks that are involved in keeping us safe during this pandemic. All the folks in medical, the first responders, the fire, emergency, EMT, and the like, as well as all the folks that are providing our daily needs in terms of our groceries and the like, our transit systems, delivering the mail, all those high contact areas where they're really putting their lives at jeopardy as well. Thank you for what it is that you do. Well, I'm always amazed when I open up reels. Kind of tells me a little bit about what they may or may not have known about doing the reel. One of those was the missing line guide. Here's another one. Whenever the star adjuster has the part number facing outwards, it's been put on backwards. Now that's not going to affect the operation of the reel, but it does affect the cosmetics. You have a rounded piece on this side and you have a flat side on there. It was designed that way. I'm also looking here. There's not much left on these drag washers, so we're going to have to see what's going on inside there as well. You will notice, as opposed to the traditional Penn bridge, you only have 2 bridge screws here. Most of them will have 4, and the ones with 4 hold that anti-reverse system in place using a traditional dog. This one uses a little bit different dog. This is not the dog from that reel, but you'll see when we open it up how that one works. It works on a lever kind of a perspective, as opposed to a spring-loaded anti-reverse in there. Well, this one's also missing a side plate screw. We're going to have to find that one. For now, I'm just going to reverse that screw here. But we're missing a side plate screw from somebody who probably did some earlier work on this one and didn't use a parts tray. Well, I recommend a parts tray for everybody, of course. I use mine. Mine is the bottom of a plastic jug. But that keeps all your pieces and parts in one spot. And normally you don't have to worry about where did the piece go when you get done lubricating and tuning up the reel, and it's time to reassemble. We'll go find that one a little bit later. But for now, we'll just get this side plate off and see what's going on inside here. One of the other things I like to do, I like to take this line guide support bearing out. Later on, we'll show you how to reinstall that, but for now, it just makes it easier on everybody if you take that off. Well, if they did any kind of service on there, we're still pretty dirty in here. And as I kind of thought, we're missing, well, I'm not quite sure what we're doing. The spring is working, so we probably have the lever misinstalled or something else that's causing this to not operate properly. So you can see that the bridge is very different from the traditional bridges that we use. We have the drive down here, which supports the line guide. We have the 2 screws that are holding this bridge on. We have a pivot point here that's going to hold the anti-reverse dog in. And we have an anti-reverse spring behind it, and that's probably it. I suspect maybe they've substituted a spring that's too weak, and we'll see what that may be. I brought out that other dog just to compare to make sure that it wasn't worn. The dog in this one wasn't worn and not able to reach the bridge assembly. Alright, I've cut my hands because any pieces that fall out, I want to make sure that I capture them rather than have them fall onto the bench and create something of a nightmare in terms of trying to find them. Taking out that spring. That spring is pretty bent up. I think that's probably the cause of it, but we'll see. Here's your dog. This is your main gear and bridge assembly. As I mentioned, those drags are pretty worn, so we're going to get inside there, see what's going on. Yeah, these are the old leather drags, and they've passed their expiration date, if you will. They're totally worn, need to be replaced. And we'll go do that. The drags that support that one are the same as the 155 Beachmaster series. So we'll go ahead and make sure that we replace those as part of this service. I want to take the gear shaft off before I continue. You want to take the gear shaft off because that's a great hiding place for grease and grime and dirt over time. And you want to make sure that it is clean. And to do that, you remove the pin. You saw me use a little punch here. There's a hole in the side of the gear shaft there. You want to push that pin through. Then you can slide that sleeve off with a paper towel. Make sure that you clean it. The pin rides in this groove here. You want to make sure that you don't have any of those quote-unquote foreign substances in there that are going to cause a problem. All right, with that done, we can go ahead and put some real grease onto that shaft so it's properly lubricated. Now, if you didn't pull the shaft off, you'd want to oil that. And the oil port is that center screw that holds the handle on. You'll see oil printed on that. We'll go back to that in a little bit. But you'll see oil printed on that, and that's where you would put the oil. You have a hard washer underneath. Right now we're just going to compare these to make sure that these are proper. They look to be the same. I'm just going to line them up. I want to make sure that there isn't any unforeseen wear. No, they're in good shape. They're the same size. So I'll put my existing one over there. I'm going to grab a box where I keep my drag washers just to go ahead and find those 155 washers. And it may take a moment in time. So while I'm doing this, I want to remind everybody that if you enjoy these types of videos, that you should subscribe. And if you do subscribe, please hit the notification button. That way you'll see all of the videos that I post. And you'll be able to decide which ones you want to watch and which ones you may not have as much interest in. I can do all kinds of reels, so if you've got a subset that's a specialty of yours, maybe the freshwater reels or the like, well, then if I'm posting a saltwater reel, maybe you can find a different time to go look at those. Okay, so that search took a little bit longer, so I paused the camera for a moment. I haven't done anything other than that. I probably should have looked for that screw that went into one side. All right, so we've reattached the gear sleeve. I'm going to check the main gear. This is clean, and it shows no evidence of having bad gear teeth. Those would be when they're chipped or bent or some other way affected by wheel damage. And then we got our 3 new HT100 washers that'll help build out the piece. I'm going to use some drag grease on these. That just keeps them flexible. When you're using the drag grease, just put a little coating on it. You don't have to put a lot. I use my gloved hand just to spread it around a little bit. And if there's any excess, you can wipe it off. But I've gotten pretty good to getting it to the point where there's no excess, although I do wind up wiping it off of my glove in the end. You have 2 round or keyed washers. They go on each side of the eared washers. So you go with a fabric washer, then one of the keyed washers, and a second fabric washer. This is the eared washer. It has the 2 tabs on it. And again, if you needed a main gear for this, the main gear is the same as the Beachmaster, in addition to having the drag washers being the same. All right, last of the fabric washers. Last of the hard washers and then the cap washers, and these three have seen their productive days gone. We'll return those to the customer when we finish this work here. Okay, so let's go back and rebuild this. One of the things that I suspect has happened here is that the spring was too weak. That spring is no longer available. The dog isn't available either. It's just I happen to be fortunate to be able to have an extra one I can do from a comparison standpoint. So a lot of folks try to fabricate springs, and they use everything from springs in cigarette lighters to pens, whatever. They're out there, and I think I have one that's original to the reel, but it's not a bad bush fix if you can do it, but you got to get the right size and you got to get the right tension, because if you don't, it's not going to do enough to move it along, and if it's not moving that dog into position, you're not going to have an anti-reverse. All right, so this comes in next. Then you want to load your main gear, and then you want to put the dog behind the main gear on the stud. This might be a little hard to see. I'll try and roll it out of the way, but this is how your dog is going to enter, and you can see how it's going to hook up with the cavity, just like that. That's how your dog is going to hold it in place. Dog comes down, there's a ridge here, it's going to grab the ridge. All right, and then let me go ahead and grab the spring that I have. It's probably right spring. Oh yeah, there's a lot of tension. And you can see with this spring now, it's holding completely firm tension, where the other one was just floating in the cavity. So my thought is, what we had here was the wrong spring in here. And then once you do that, you can roll this over and anchor your bridge to those two studs. Just like that. So the one stud is kind of keeping the pressure on the dog. The other stud is positioned properly. You don't have a yoke in this reel. You don't have a jack in this reel. As I mentioned, this is kind of unique in that it's a knuckle buster. It's a direct drive, but it does give you the ability to override the anti-reverse for free spooling during casting or drop fishing. All right. So we're going to put the trim ring back on. And now we'll show you how that should work. You should have a free spool now in the off position, and in the on position. Oh yeah, well, all the difference in the world, right? You can hear it clicking. You can see the leg of the anti-reverse dog moving, and that's the way it should be. I'm just going to finish this then. We'll remove the spool. So I would say that whoever was doing this probably got an A for effort, but missed a couple of key things, including the getting the right spring for that anti-reverse. This is my old bugaboo, the line on the reel, but it looks like it's relatively new, so we're going to try and leave that on there. The back end looks freshly greased and cleaned. I'll put a little bit more on. And I get questions sometime, what grease do I use? Well, I'm using fishing reel grease. It's Penn Precision reel grease. And I'm using that because it's a fishing reel grease, not because it's a Penn product and I'm working on a Penn reel. That's a bonus, I guess, but I would just recommend simply that you use a fishing reel grease when you go ahead and do that. We've seen that a lot of oils are on this rather than grease. Oils are okay, but oils evaporate faster than grease, and you're liable to lose your lubrication faster. And if that's the case, you're going to have to wind up tuning your reel up quicker. All right, that goes on. I'm going to put a light coating of grease onto your axle shaft or spool shaft here. I'm going to do the same thing with the gear. We're going to check the teeth to make sure they're clean and not broken in any way. Sometimes that just reminds me as I'm putting on, sometimes you're going to see these flared. And if they're flared, that gear's no good because it won't ride the shoulder. In this case, this one's okay. It's minimum movement on that shoulder. And then we'll do the same thing here. We'll put some grease on that. And it's time to close the reel up. So we just simply insert the gear into the carrier. And then I like to get one screw started before I go about setting that line guide, which wasn't set by the previous owner or the previous person who did this. In this case, I think I got another long screw. We'll do that. We'll put that over here. And I'm only turning it 1 or 2 turns, just enough to catch the screw, because when you go to reset this, you have studs, and that's going to increase the width of the case. You need to give yourself the room. You'll notice on the line guide that there's a short side and a long side to that. The short side goes to the front. You'll notice that there's 2 pinholes in each side. That's where the tag ends of these go. Pick one side and put those tag ends in, then come over to the other side. And make sure that they're all in the right holes. And then hold the pressure on. Come on back and tighten the 2 screws that you used for starters before you go any further. That'll hold the line guide in place as we continue to work on this. We have 2 more small screws for the reel seat. Go ahead and put those in. And of course we're missing a screw. I'll find that one later. But you're happy to remind me if I miss that before I return the reel to the customer. You can remind me that I didn't put that in. This is clear and oiled. That's the way I like them, oiled and clear. You want to take the line guide, come in under the, we want to go all the way to the one side. You want to come into the housing. I keep forgetting that the gearing is on this side. Take the adjuster out. Put the other bearing holder in. Put a little bit of grease in that bearing holder. Most of the time these 209s and 309s have it reversed. The driver's off of an idler gear on the non-gear side. In this case, it's the reverse, so good catch there. You want to come in with this now through the opposite hole and then come on back, line the gear into the slot in the arm, and then we can put some more grease into this coat and snug it up. We're not going to be able to do a final adjustment until we put the star adjuster on, but for now we'll just get this thing started by screwing this in. Now we'll come over and take the collar, put that on. Find the part identifier that's going below. I can already see the difference in the drags. There's quite a bit of play there. That's an easy way to check your drags to see if you've got enough meat. If you look behind the star adjuster here and you see a good amount of distance there, the drags are good. What I saw before was the star adjuster was almost up on that gear slit there. All right, we're going to turn that. And then what you want to do is you want to keep pressure on this side so that you match or meet this into the gear drive. Once that's in, you can come back this is a little bit of a play here. What we have is we have it driving, but we don't have it square to this side yet. There we go. You heard that click. That's what we were looking for. Now we can tighten down the adjuster on this side, and now you have a nice, easily spinning reel. And listen to that click, 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 because that tells me I have my anti-reverse, which is what this whole issue was about in addition to the servicing. So now we have an effective anti-reverse. And this is what I mean by knuckle buster. When you put that to cast mode, you're going to be able to let line out, but the reel is going to continue to turn. And that's a feature of this reel. I can't tell you how many times I get questions like that say, what's wrong with my reel? It's turning when I'm going to cast. Well, in this case, nothing's wrong with it. If you didn't take the gear sleeve off, this is where you would insert the oil. This is your handle screw. It has a little oil port there if you don't want to take the handle screw off. But since we have it off already, that would be how you would do it. And then, of course, if we didn't take the gear sleeve off during the service, you would put the piece in there. All right, just a little bit more, and we'll be ready to return this one to its rightful owner and give it a second chance to go fishing again. I think the owner mentioned that they picked this up at a tag sale or flea market or something. Well, now it's ready to go. And these are fun little reels. This is in nice condition. You can see it's working properly. And here's what I mean by the knuckle buster. As you pull out the string, that handle's going to turn backwards. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please like it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section. And finally, if you have a reel that needs to be repaired, but you're not up for working on it yourself, if you contact me by email on the business card that follows, I'll be happy to provide you with the repair information. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Yes, I will find that screw. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.